cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. I have no regrets, yeah, I'll tattle my chest. I'll never forget what it's like to be in debt. Been stabbed in the back bed, I'll show you what happens. Pass me the mic and I'll show you with action. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you could never own. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you could never own. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right and see life do what you want. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right and see life do what you want. So give me all the scars, I'm a human being. Cover them with tattoos so you can't see. Knew it from the start, you had problems with me and the things I could be, I just wish I had seen. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you can never own. I feel this pain, you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you can never own. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right and see life do what you want. So fight and die for the things you know you love. Do what you think is right and see life do what you want.
All right, all right, all right. All right, all right, all right. That's how we do it here in Texas. Some Texas sounds there. Welcome to 12 Gauge Investigative. This is 12 Gauge. I'm your host. Hope everybody is doing wonderful on this Thursday night. How's the mic coming across? Is it coming across all right? Let me know. Let me know. Anyways, I thought I'd get on for a little bit. I'm not going to be on very long because I got a hell of a day tomorrow, and next week's not going to be much easier. But I thought I'd get on and and do a little bit of educational stuff. This has to do with true crime because we do talk about the fight or flight response, and we even talk about the frozen shock phase or the freeze aspect of it. So I thought that I'd get on here and I'd share a little bit. Not that I anticipated a lot of people on because there's a lot of other creators on at the moment, which is cool. If you catch this on replay, I hope you enjoy it just as well. Um, what do y'all think about Parker, man? I went to see Parker probably in 2022. He put on a hell of a show. And I'm gonna have to erase that anyway. So if you're here doing the live, you're hearing the live, you got to hear the song live. I'm gonna have to erase it because they won't monetize my live with that song if it's copyrighted. It's all good though. Sometimes you got to start the live with some music to get your heart pumping just a little bit. You know what I mean? Anyways, who's in the chat? Raise your hand if you're here. I see 5 people, but I only see 2 in the chat. So where are the other 3? Am I one of the 3? Where are the other 2? Come on, raise your hand up. If you're here, don't be shy. Come in the chat. Come in the chat and say hello. Like I said earlier in the upload that I did, don't be scared to come in the chat. We agree to disagree. And even though there's times in here when, it seems like I'm one sided or, anything like that, it's okay to come in the chat. Just don't be an a hole. Don't come in here and drop a bomb like you're the most smart person in the room. I mean, come on, man. This is YouTube. This is not physics. This is not rocket science. Just come on in here and say hello. Talk to the people that are in here. We got some kind people in the chat. And for the most part, unless you stir the bee hive, you won't get stung. And that's all I got to tell you. That's all I got to tell you. All right, so let's begin. I know you probably can't see that well, especially if you're on a cell phone or something like that. If you have a question as I'm explaining this, please feel free to star up and I will answer it the best of my ability. Okay, so what is the fight or flight response? This fundamental physiologic response forms the foundation of modern day stress medicine. The fight or flight response is our body's primitive, automatic, inborn response that prepares the body to fight or to flee from perceived attack, harm, threat to our survival. And this could be anything. Let's say that you're at home and you get a disconnect notice for your electric or your water to be turned off, or even you forgot to make a car payment and you get a red slip in the mail. Anybody ever have that moment where you suck your air in that deep? Or other people call it that oh crap moment, when you're like, oh man, they're about to they're about to turn this off. So you go into panic mode. So panic mode is basically the beginning activating event to this fight or flight response. So panic mode will get you going every time. So you got 2 choices. Most people they get angry and they start fighting the situation, or they just say screw it, throw the bill in the stack of piles, put it under the rest of it. I don't see it. I don't have to deal with it. So therefore, it's dealt with. And that is what you call, my friend, running from the problem. And it isn't until you get that electric turned off or that car payment, they come and repo your car, then you realize, really, did I really solve the problem? Or am I just trying to deflect it in another way? So I hope that makes a little sense. Okay, Truth says, no, it's a numb feeling you get in your stomach just before you know you're gonna have to fight. Exactly, exactly. That's just dangerous place to be for someone facing me. I get you. I totally get you. I'm glad you're here, Truth. What happens when we're under excessive stress? Let me ask the chat this because there's some of you in chat. What happens when you have to deal with excessive stress, guys? Do you deal well with it, or do you kind of compartmentalize it? What do you do when you're dealing with excessive stress? I'm not talking about everyday stress. I'm talking about excessive, like it just keeps coming. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that, guys? What do you do? Well, this says when we experience excessive stress, whether from internal worry or external circumstance, a bodily reaction is triggered called the fight or flight response. Originally discovered by the great Harvard physiologist Walter Cannon This response is hardwired into our brains and represents a genetic wisdom designed to protect us from bodily harm. This response corresponds to an area of our brain called the hypothalamus, which, when stimulated, initiates a sequence of nerve cell firing and chemical release that prepares our body for running or fighting. It's kind of that moment, just like what Truth is describing, that numb moment when you feel that numb feeling in your stomach and you're about to make an impulsive decision. Well, I get you, Truth. I get you totally. There's several steps that I know well. Okay, Rondi, I hear you. Thank you guys for commenting. Thank you for sharing. What are the signs that our fight or flight response has been stimulated or activated? Let's talk about this a minute. When our fight or flight response is activated, sequences of nerve cell firings occur and chemicals like adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol are released into our bloodstream. These patterns of nerve cell firing and chemical release cause our body to undergo a series of very dramatic changes. Our respiratory rate increases, blood is shunted away from our digestive tract and directed into our muscles and limbs, which require extra energy and fuel for running and fighting. Our pupils dilate, our awareness intensifies, our sight sharpens, our impulses quicken, our perception of pain diminishes, our immune system mobilizes with increased activation. We become prepared physically and psychologically for fight or flight. We scan and search our environment looking for the enemy. And I can understand this wholeheartedly because I played football for so many years, and I thought I had a superpower because I could literally just talk myself into not feeling any pain due to the abuse that I had when I grew up. I could kind of blink out and say, no pain, nothing's going to hurt me. I don't care how big it is, how fast it is, how tremendous it hits me. I am not going to feel it. So dissociating that prepared me to go into the fight or flight looking for the enemy, and yeah, you're right. You're right, Truth. And when you're at that prone position in your mind where you're looking for the enemy, there's nothing that's going to keep you from fighting and winning. Because I know a lot of people that are littler than you that may look like they don't have a lot or they don't bring a lot to the table. But never underestimate a smaller opponent because they will mop the floor with your rear. They really will. I mean, there's some people that you would never think have much fight to them. And you underestimate the wrong one, it's your ass. Because they will tear you up. So size doesn't matter when it comes to fight or flight. If you're in an environment where you're fighting for what you perceive as your life, this person brings out an extra level of perseverance to get through the situation. That's why you hear a lot of times, you don't hear about it so much anymore, but you used to hear about it like a mom has her child trapped under a vehicle or, something traumatic happens and they're able to lift the car off the kids, to save the kid. And they're like, how the hell did they lift that car up? How were they able to lift that car? Well, that's the adrenaline, that's the noradrenaline, and that's the cortisol. And that's the fight response. Instead of running, they're putting all that energy into fighting that situation to overcome it. So I hope that you're understanding what I'm talking about because, all of us have been there. All of us have been there. I've had my foot ran over. I mean, my family trips out on me because pain unless it's extreme pain, I don't really feel it. Like I can, a bull mastiff jumped at me and got within centimeters of my face of biting me. And I didn't flinch, right? That doesn't make me a badass. But my nephew was like, "Oh my God, that dog almost bit you and you didn't even flinch. You just stood your ground." And he trips out all the time on me because, whenever I'm faced with an emergency situation, I've been in so many situations where you keep your head, it gives you an advantage. It's when you're all over the place and you can't harness that energy to fight, that's when you get in trouble. So a lot of times, whenever you're you're trying to diffuse a situation and you're trying not to run from it, most people are going to fight. I don't know very many people. I don't know very many people that run anymore. Most people stand up and square up with you unless you have a weapon, and then they're probably going to say, "Okay, well, I'm gonna kind of go a little bit this way." When our fight or flight system is activated, we tend to perceive everything in our environment as a possible threat to our survival. By its very nature, the fight or flight system bypasses our rational mind, where our more well thought out beliefs exist, and moves us into the attack mode. This state of alert causes us to perceive almost everything in our world as a possible threat to survival. As such, we tend to see everyone and everything as a possible enemy. And I've told y'all this many a time. If you walk around being, having PTSD or having trauma or anything like that, and you walk around as the world is a possible threat to your survival, you're going to be looking at everybody and everything as your possible enemy. Like airport security during a terrorist threat, we are on the lookout for every possible danger. We may overreact to the slightest comment. Our fear is exaggerated. Our thinking is distorted. We see everything through the filter of possible danger. We narrow our focus to those things that can harm us. Fear becomes the lens through which we see the world. And that's not a good place to be, I believe, that you view your world through the lens of fear. You know, how many of y'all have or know somebody that views their world through a lens of fear? Like everything is, be careful, don't do that. Oh, oh, don't be running so fast. There's this or that. Ah, ah. They're always telling you to perceive a fearful event that could happen that could hurt you. I don't know about you, but I didn't have that growing up. I don't know how y'all grew up. I had to learn the hard way. I had to learn through trial and error. If I was going to run through the yard and there was a rake, laying on its back, so to speak, if I hit that rake and it smacked me in the face, that was on me. There's no way. There's no way that I could have went in crying about that because the response would have been, "Well, that's what your dumb ass gets." I've told you many times not to be running through the yard and being aware of what's around you. You know what I'm saying? So, if we live our life out of fear, we perceive everything in our environment as a possible threat to our survival. We can begin to see how it's almost impossible to cultivate positive attitudes and beliefs when we're stuck in survival mode. Do you ever notice a lot of people are stuck in survival mode? Do y'all understand what survival mode is, right? It's where you view yourself as having to overcome every second of your day. There's always some kind of emergency, some kinds of emergency that you need to put out. There's never a calm moment in your life. So if you live your life like that, think of how you pass that along to people that you love. Hey B&B, how are you doing? Good to see you. Happy holidays to you. Jeremiah, thank you for being here tonight. So, do any of you know anybody that lived their life where they perceived their life in survival mode all the time? Like they're fearful of the situations around them based on past experiences. Like think back to something that happened to you and you never overcame it. And therefore, when it comes to trying it as an adult, for whatever reason, you can't get yourself to do it because of your perceived fear. I don't know how many of you all have been bitten by a dog. I don't know how many of you were riding a bike when you were a kid and you remember the pedals used to have those sharp ass things. Did you ever slice your leg open with one of those things, or did you brake too fast and fly across the handlebars? Did any of this stuff ever happen? Well, how can that impact you as an adult? Since you were hurt from it, since you never gave it another shot to overcome that, you stored that in your brain and said that's potentially harmful for people. You get what I'm saying? It's kind of like people that are fearful of clowns, people that are fearful of high bridges. You know, when I travel to Florida in the summer, usually I go through Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama. And once you get to Alabama, there's some big ass bridges on your way to Pensacola and on through Destin and down to Panama City and down to Clearwater and nowhere. So if you're fearful of bridges, you overcome your fear really, really quickly. The first bridge you hit is the one going into Louisiana. I don't know what the name of that bridge is, but that bridge is high and it goes over the Mississippi coming from Texas. So those bridges are huge. Even in New Orleans, there's some tall ass bridges. So if you have a fear of heights, getting on something that tall is going to kind of shake you a little bit. I love Alabama, Jeremiah. I love that state. I've even thought about moving there eventually, you know. There's some good people in that state. I've met some very awesome people in that state. Yeah, there's a high bridge. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. And, you know, if you're scared of heights or you are just a little leery, those bridges are going to terrify you. I was watching something the other day, and these are just examples, okay? I was watching something the other day on YouTube, and they were showing how people were going up the Arc in St. Louis. When I went to St. Louis, I didn't go up the Arc, but you know, once I got to the top, or once they got to the top, you could see all of St. Louis. Oh, thanks, B&B. That's very kind of you. That is very kind of you. Thank you so much. Um, I don't know if it's the Wilkinson Bridge, Rondi, but there's a lot of them. It's like a metal bridge that goes from I think it's Orange, Texas to Louisiana. It's right there across the Mississippi. It's a huge metal bridge and it goes forever, you know? I really appreciate that, BNB. You know, like I was saying about the Ark, have any of you ever been up into the Ark in St. Louis? I was watching that video, and once people got to the top, they could look out and you could see all over on both sides. And you could walk right down the middle. And I thought that's pretty cool. You ride up it in a little train, little thing, and then as you're coming down, you know, the train going pretty fast. But if you've ever been claustrophobic, enclosed in areas where, you know, trauma has happened or, you know, you've had some kind of fear associated with it, for a lot of people, there's nothing you can say or do to get them to do that. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is too kind. Do not swim in the Alabama River. Oh, I know, not to go in any of those marshes or swamps down there. But speaking of that truth, I saw this place in Alabama and I almost did it. There's a place where you can kayak, and there is gators on each side as you're kayaking. And I thought, now that'll be something to overcome. That's some fear right there, right? But then I thought, no, there's no way I'm gonna do that. There's no way I'm gonna do that. Because I've flipped in a kayak before, and I can just, you know, I'm a bigger guy, so I can just imagine me flipping my kayak, and all of a sudden, five gators nonchalantly just creep into the river or the water. That I'd be done for. You know what I'm saying? Because once they get you, they start rolling you. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. Oh, they won't knock you out of a boat. Okay, but these are gators. These aren't crocodiles. These are gators, and they're everywhere along the shore. But you kayak, you know, down this little river-looking thing. But that's really overcoming your fear. You know, Jeff. I fear when my wife driving. I hope she's not watching. I hope she is. She can come and knock you in the head for that. Gators will go on your kayak. Yeah, like I lived in East Texas and they had those water moccasins that hung out off the trees or you know, when I thought a lake, you know, I grew up in West Texas, so a lake was something that, you know, you could drive around the lake and there was not any trees or just mesquites and stuff like that. Well, I got to East Texas, and I'm talking far East Texas, like almost to Louisiana. And I went to this lake called Caddo Lake, and I tripped out because these trees were huge. They looked like stuff that you saw in a postcard, right? And then we went to the boat dock, and there was all this swampland. You know, there was trees coming out of the water. And I was like, what the hell is this? This is a lake? This isn't a lake. This is a swamp. And there was water moccasins hanging out of the trees. I shit you not. And my friend told me, she said, there's no way I'm getting in a kayak or a boat or anything like that. Those things jump into your boat, and it is the scariest thing to try to get those things out. I don't know if you've ever experienced any of that, but I kept my ass on the shore. I didn't get into that swamp. That's what I looked at it as, a swamp. Wood boogers? I don't know what that is. Where's Texas when we need them? What is that, Jeremiah? Wood boogers. B&B says we had a friend get bumped in a kayak by a great white in the Pacific Ocean by Santa Barbara. Good God. Wood boogers. I have to look that up. So there's some examples of where fight or flight kicks in. Okay. So let's talk about the freeze element of this. Okay. Let's say that you're kayaking in one of these swamps because you're brave and you see these water moccasins and it lands in your boat, in your kayak, right where you're at. Are you going to fight? Are you going to flee? Are you going to freeze? Sam Houston National Forest. Okay. Swamp ape. Gotcha now. Gotcha. So, are you going to run? Are you going to fight the snake or are you going to freeze? Because I guarantee you a lot of people are going to freeze because you're trying to gather your wits about you. You're trying to say, okay, what do I need to do next? Because if I move too fast, this snake's gonna grab me, wrap itself around me, and I'm not gonna get it off me. Because that's what water moccasins do, right? They wrap themselves around you and kind of choke out their victim. So that is what's called the frozen shock phase or the freeze element of this that we're talking about. We can begin to see how it's almost impossible to cultivate positive attitudes and beliefs. We're stuck in survival mode. Our heart is not open. Our rational mind is disengaged. Our consciousness is focused on fear, not love. Making clear choices and recognizing the consequences of those choices is unfeasible. We're focused on short term survival, not the long term consequences of our beliefs and choices. When we're overwhelmed with excessive stress, our life begins a series of short term emergencies. We lose the ability to relax and enjoy the moment. We live from crisis to crisis with no relief in sight. Burnout is inevitable. The burnout is usually provides the motivation to change our lives for the better. We're propelled to step back and look at the big picture of our lives, forcing us to examine our beliefs, our values, and our goals. When you finish reading about these fundamental principles of fight or flight response and the relaxation response, don't forget to visit blah 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 www. Here we go. So this is hardwired into us, whether you believe that or not. Yeah, I'm not sure. What does a water moccasin do? Like, how does it hurt you? Because people are terrified of those things. And I don't know if this is a if it's even a water moccasin. This was a black snake, and it was huge. Like it could eat 4 or 5. Yeah, I mean this thing was huge. Like it could eat 4 or 5 catfish in one setting. You know what I'm saying? It was huge. They're poisonous. Okay. See, I thought they weren't very friendly. So if one fell on your kayak, you're gonna kind of freak out a little bit, right? You're gonna freeze a minute and think, what do I need to do? This damn snake just fell on my kayak. Am I gonna run? I'm in the middle of this swamp. How the hell am I gonna overcome this obstacle? What would you do, guys? What would y'all do if y'all had that happen? Be realistic now. We don't want any MacGyver stories here. What would you do? You pull out your knife, right? Anaconda. I saw that movie. That movie was crazy. Well, 7 or 8 feet is still pretty long. So, what would you do if that snake fell on your kayak? Would you freeze? Would you fight it off? What would you do? These things were black and they look. kind of scary, you know. So I don't know. It was in a swamp, so it was kind of foggy, and hell, could have been a garden snake for all I know. I got trapped on the water and trapped in the water on a canoe, paddled like hell. I'd sit there really still. Okay. See, I wouldn't know what to do. That's why I always carry a machete with me everywhere I go in places like that because I want to make sure that if I'm ever confronted in a situation where I need to defend myself from animals or snakes or something, I at least have a fighting chance, you know? Walk on water. I like that. I like that. Oh, Texas is missing out tonight, isn't he? They aren't venomous. Okay. See, I could have just been seeing a water snake, and in my mind, it looked like an anaconda. You know what I'm saying? But you're right. I missed you in chat, Jeremiah. I missed you in chat, buddy. You bring a laugh to the element for sure. Thank you for being here. Run on the water like Jesus littered. But I mean, that's just one situation in life that you could see yourself not really encountering every day. But think of the emergency that we have. Have you ever been late for work and then you finally get to work and then all of a sudden you're rushing around, you click the door button to lock your car, and just as your car door is about to latch, you realize, oh, damn, my car keys are in the ignition. You're already late for work, and here comes another crisis. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Or like Dr. Vona was talking about last night about having a blowout. That's a fight or flight situation. You're on a big interstate or a road and you have a blowout, that can send you into fight or flight, you know? Yeah, it's not easy to, it's, this is true story right here. Truth. The problem about being in a kayak is not easy to bail out. Water, moccasin, depending on the level of piss off that snake is, that will chase your ass. Yeah, just be freaking still. Try real hard not to breathe on them. I hear you. What is our fight or flight system designed to protect us from? So this is why we even have it, okay? Our fight or flight response is designed to protect us from the proverbial saber-toothed tigers that once lurked in the woods and fields around us, threatening our physical survival. At times when our actual physical survival is threatened, there's no greater response to have on our side. When activated, the fight or flight response causes a surge of adrenaline and other stress hormones to pump through our body. This surge is the force responsible for mothers lifting cars off their trapped children and for firemen heroically running into blazing houses to save endangered victims. The surge of adrenaline imbues us with heroism and courage at the times when we're called upon to protect and defend the lives and values we cherish. So, it's just talking about saber-toothed tigers. So let's talk about, yeah, you're right, B&B. I mean, let me put your comment up here. Blowout scared the shit out of me. We had one pulling our fifth wheel, and my husband drives like a retired cop, so away the grass. Yes, I get that. I get that. Don't breathe on them. Don't have no idea where you are. I will remember that. Truth. Thank you for that. But as far as blowouts are concerned, you're right. I mean, you start weaving all over the road and everything else. I mean, it is a scary situation. Even that or hitting a patch of water, you know, and hydroplaning, like after it's rained and, you know, hydroplaning and, trying to weave in and out of traffic. If there's an accident, I had to do that on I-10. And I hate telling all these stories because I don't want y'all to think that I'm a bullshitter and making this stuff up because it's really happened. I was on I-10 heading to Houston and I went over this hill. It was raining. I was in a Mitsubishi Eclipse, so kind of a sports car, and I come up on the hill. Down at the bottom of the hill, this truck and a trailer was skidded off to the left in the ditch, right? But on the right-hand lane, there was a bunch of cars just stopped. Well, there was this one car in the left lane, and there was a little area where you could get through. So what did my dumbass do? I punched it, right? I shot through that little area, and just as I made it to the other side, I was telling myself, you know what? You did it. Great driving. And then all of a sudden, boom, I hit this patch of water, and I start skidding to the left like I'm going into the ditch, and I'm holding on to that wheel with all I am, praying at the same time. And I even thought, for a split second, this is the end. I messed up, and this is how I'm going to go out. And I started skidding. I promise you not. The inside of the compartment of that Mitsubishi turned white. It turned solid white. Somehow or another, I had knocked it into neutral, and the car slowed down enough that it came out of the skid and turned. It did like a 360 and started going the other way. Well, the other side of the road, there was like a drop off with a railing. So I'm hanging on, I'm praying, and I'm doing all this stuff, and I come to a complete stop, like right next to the railing, in between the road and the railing, and my car is facing the direction I was coming from through. The direction I was going. It was facing east. I call that a spiritual experience. You know what I mean? Because the inside of that vehicle turned white. I promise you not. I was not seeing things. Everything slowed down. And that's what this is talking about. Your body does all this so that you don't short circuit. You're able to overcome these obstacles. Have you ever been in a wreck? You understand those moments where you're flying or you're getting hit or you're, being shuffled around the car and everything seems to go in slow motion? Well, that's your body assisting you to deal with these situations. So I made it through all that. I had pushed on the brakes so hard that I don't know if I overheated them or whatever, so I didn't have any brakes at all hardly. I got to New Braunfels. I kind of poured water on the brakes, went in to the store and waited for a little while. Came back out, tried the brakes, they were good. And nothing really happened to the car. I mean, I was just like, that is amazing. But I really thought that was the end, I really thought that was the end. Two-time bumper car champion of the world, Craig. Car accidents. Car accidents suck. They really do. That scared the hell out of me. Hydroplaning is no joke. So, what are the saber-toothed tigers of today and why are they so dangerous? When we face real dangers to our physical survival, the fight or flight response is invaluable. Today, however, most of the saber-toothed tigers we encounter are not a threat to our physical survival. Today's saber-toothed tigers consist of rush hour traffic, missing a deadline, bouncing a check, or having an argument with our boss or our spouse. Nonetheless, these modern day saber toothed tigers trigger the activation of our fight or flight system as if our physical survival was threatened. On a daily basis, toxic stress hormones flow into our bodies for events that pose no real threat to our physical survival. Once it's been triggered, what is the natural conclusion of our fight or flight response? By its very design, the fight or flight response leads us to fight or to flee, both creating immense amounts of muscle movement and physical exertion. This physical activity effectively metabolizes the stress hormones released as a result of the activation of our fight or flight response. Once the fighting is over and the threat which triggered the response has been eliminated, our body and mind return to a state of calm. That's why whenever you've been in a really horrific fight with somebody, I'm talking physical fight, and you're fighting them. After the fight, you feel so drained, like your body has nothing left. It's because your body secretes all this stuff. And then when you're done, it kind of starts flicking stuff off a little bit to calm you down. And you're wiped out. I bet, serious, I really that's terrible, man. That is terrible. That is an uncontrollable feeling because you have no control. The same thing as in ice. You hit some black ice, talk about loss of control, and everything else is more powerful than you. That is a great example right there. I believe that behaviors are learned through nature, by what we see out here in the world or what we experience. I really don't think, I mean, I was watching a video about that, Jeremiah, and that's a great question. I'm gonna do a live on Sunday night about psychopaths, antisocial personality disorder, and my friend Carla is gonna come up hopefully on the panel. We're gonna go over that. And that goes along with what you're talking about right there, Jeremiah. So hope to see you on Sunday night. Yeah, cortisol is awful because you live in fight or flight. That's why you constantly are bloated and you gain weight and it's hard for you to take it off and stuff like that. Tom Van, thank you for being here, buddy. When I was learning skydiving, it was hard at first, but then it just turned fun and no frightening. All right. See, that's something I always wanted to do, but I don't know. The older I got, it just doesn't appeal to me anymore. Yeah, he is a badass, isn't he? B&B. If I ever need a bodyguard, Tom, I know who I'm hiring. Ronnie says also stomach, or Jeremiah says also stomach problems from ulcers. You're very right. You're very right. It's expensive 12 gauge. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know how they take you up with a trainer and you jump out the plane and all that? Yeah, of course you get a gun. You get an arsenal if you want. Anything you want, as long as you're protecting me. That's all that matters. But that's an interesting example, jumping out of a plane. How many of you have ever done that other than Tom? Have you ever wanted to jump out of a plane? Have you ever wanted to do anybody ever bungee jumped in here? Because I wanted to do that as well. And I just never, I mean, one day you're 28 with all these dreams and I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. and the next day you're 40 something, and then you're 50. And then it's like, where the hell did 28 and all that in between ages end me up at 50? Where did all that go? And somewhere along the way, I lost the desire. You get what I'm saying? All right, Tom, I'll hold you to it for reals. You've bungee jumped, Rondi? Or you've skydived? Oh, you did it from a 60-foot in Tennessee? Wow. Once you get up to 150 miles an hour, it feels like you're floating. That'd be awesome. Kudos to you, Rondi. I always thought the rubber band was gonna snap. I mean, see, that's living in fear right there. When you think the worst, you kind of speak it into existence. Where did that come from? I've never bungee jumped and the rubber bands never snapped. Where did that come from? Where did that fear come from? We probably heard it from somebody else. Oh, don't you dare do that. I bet, what if the rubber band snaps? Or don't, oh, you don't want to skydive. What if the parachute doesn't open? And then you get into that mindset, well, maybe they're right. Maybe they're trying to speak something into existence to protect me from the inevitable, you know, curiosity of my adrenaline. B&B says I bungee jumped, zip lined, and rappelled in Cabo at a tequila tasting place. You have a reserve parachute. See, I wanted for my 50th, I wanted to go to Fremont Street and zip line down Fremont. That looks so awesome. I saw a video on that and I thought to myself, you know what? That looks so awesome. I want to do that. Here I am 53 and I've still yet to do that. So, real life, adulting sucks sometimes. Sirius said I bungeed in Biloxi, Mississippi. It was phenomenal. Awesome. I want to put on one of those squirrel suits so I can go 20 miles per hour. That would be awesome, wouldn't it, Truth? There's extreme to everything. You're right. 200 plus miles per hour. Can anybody tell me why Swamp Bros isn't posting anymore? Well, she was live a while ago, Tom. She was on yesterday, I think. I think she's back on. My 11-year-old daughter did it 12. She loved it. Yeah, I wanted to do that, down Fremont. I didn't want to do I wanted to do the Superman pose, where they strap you in and you're kind of have your body flat and you're ziplining, just laying down, so to speak. I think that would be so awesome. Yeah, she's back at it, Tom. Yeah, those are awesome. I've seen those in movies where they like flying through cities and around buildings and all that. I mean, those things they're going fast. I mean, how do you train with something like that? You know what I mean? There has to be zero fear there. You're just flying through the air. It's like, ooh, I'm flying through the air. Oh, there's the building. Oh shit. You know, that'd be terrible, man. That'd be terrible. Indoor skydiving sucked because you had to have so many hours logged to do it on your own. Jeremiah, is that one of those places where you get into the tube and they do the zero gravity and they push the air into the tube and it gives you the good night, Rondi. Be safe. Where you You get in that tube and they, you're skydiving is giving you like a condensed version of it. Yeah, wind tunnel. Okay. How was that? You s- you didn't enjoy it? Okay, over a big fan. Okay. I've wanted to do that. I just never knew if, it was really worth it. If it really gives you I mean, I've never skydove, so I wouldn't know the difference. You know what I mean? I wouldn't know if that's how it felt or not. Like if Tom went and did it, he could be like, this is nothing like skydiving, you know? Okay, too expensive for what you get. Hey Tom, I'm pretty sure you did this because my brother was in the Marines as well. And he said that they took you on a helicopter and dropped these ropes and you had to rappel down those ropes. See, that sounds like fun. But he said he was going down so fast that when he hit the ground, it kind of messed up his back at that point, because I mean, he was physically fit, but he could tell that, the ground kind of that sudden stop kind of messed with him a little bit. But he said that was so fun. Yeah, rope burn. Exactly, exactly. I mean, I can't imagine, it's like, okay, I got the rope. Now you're like, oh shit. Woo. How tall would you think that rappelling would be, Tom? Do you remember how tall that helicopter kind of hovered? Well, let me finish reading this a little bit. It says, in most cases today, once our fight or flight response is activated, we cannot flee, we cannot fight, we cannot physically run from our perceived threats. When we're faced with modern day saber-toothed tigers, we have to sit in our office and control ourselves. We have to sit in traffic and deal with it. We have to wait until the bank opens to handle the bounce check. In short, many of our major stressors today trigger the full activation of our fight or flight response, causing us to become aggressive, hypervigilant, and overreactive. This aggressiveness, overreactivity, and hypervigilance causes us to act or respond in ways that are actually counterproductive to our survival. Consider road rage in Los Angeles and other major cities. Wow, 100 feet. That's that's up there. I wonder if snot comes out of your nose like it does when you're doing 180 on a boost without a windscreen on your helmet. I don't know. It's a good thought. If you actually get in one of those squirrel suits, you better get you a GoPro. That way you can have documentation. That would be an awesome video to be shooting right there. And this is a good point. Nowadays we can't fight that saber-tooth tiger when something happens. We have to sit there and control ourselves, which isn't which isn't natural for most people. It's not natural for you to have an emergency and not overreact. As a society, we've learned to either ignore it, deny it, or be overly aggressive with it, you know? And it's interesting how people deal with certain situations. There's people that have road rage like no other. Usually just talk to my radio when I have road rage. I don't yell out the window. I don't flip people off. I don't do any of that. But me and my radio, we have a good conversation. It's counterproductive to punch out the boss, the fight response, when she or he activates our fight or flight response. Even though it might bring temporary relief to our attention, it is counterproductive to run away from the boss, the flight response, when he or she activates our fight or flight response. This all leads to a difficult situation in which our automatic, predictable, and unconscious fight or flight response causes behavior that can actually be self defeating and work against our emotional, psychological, and spiritual survival. There's 8 pages of this, and we're on page 3, so I think I'll stop right there and I'll just talk with you guys because I've given you a lot of stuff right there. And wingsuit, I bet tears and snot would be dry to your face by the time you land. You're probably right. Just breathe in, count to 4, hold to count of 7, breathe out for a count to 8 for 5 minutes, and you calm down. Learn that from your Navy SEALs. Gotcha. Fantastic topic. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you. Because a lot of times we don't think about these things whenever we're exposed to them, and some people just have learned to fight their way through life or run from problems. I went from a fighter to a runner. I went when I was in my addiction. You know, I'd run from my problems, but before I got into my addiction, I fought everything and everybody, even if I didn't have to. I perceive my world, just like I said earlier on in the reading, I perceive my world and everything in it as a threat to my survival. So therefore, I reacted before it got me. I threw things away before they left me. I blew things up before it had a chance to hurt me. And that's living in survival mode. I got to get you before you get me. If any of you understand what that means. It's a it's an interesting scenario when you watch it happening. If any of you are people watchers, go to the mall or go to a park. Exactly, Tom. Go to a park, go to a mall, and just sit there and watch people and watch how they handle minor stresses. These mothers, they'll do one or two things. They'll either ignore their kids that are acting out, or they'll just beat the hell out of them right there in front of everybody. So ignoring it would be running, right? They're running from the problem. Beating the hell out of the kid would be fighting, right? Yeah, that's true. That's true, Jeremiah. Have you ever seen that though? Especially during stressful seasons like Christmas. Go into the mall there right before Christmas. You'll see a lot of this that I'm talking about. You'll see people out there arguing about everything and anything. The murder rate, the suicide rate, and everything else goes up during the holidays. And it's a statistic that during the summer, the hotter it gets, the more violent people get, especially if they have, chemical imbalances. So all this is pretty interesting to me. I mean, that's why I'm talking about it. A lot of people don't really like to to sit around and listen to people reading and giving examples and stuff, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. But I'm glad that you are here, that you're actually responding to me. We weren't like that as kids, but then some kids these days are autistic, and some parents just beside themselves with how to handle it. You're right. I hate this time of year, stress of expectation. That's true. A way to lower that stress though is just get gift cards. I try to mind my own damn business. I got you, Jeremiah. That's what I'm doing because it is stressful. You don't know what to get people, and if you don't get them what they want, if people have been raised to be spoiled, they're not gonna, they're gonna kind of give you the side eye. Like, I wanted this. Why didn't you buy me that? Well, maybe I couldn't afford it, bro. Yeah, gift cards relieve stress during the holidays. You just put some money on that gift card, bam, hand that gift card out, no more stress. But I'm talking about gift giving. I'm not talking about just emotional stress. I mean, emotional stress during the holidays, that tells you of your, like Jeremiah said, about your expectations on what you're trying to do. Are you doing it for show or are you doing it out of love? You know? Yeah, they're a handful, Truth. They're a handful for sure. The first time a kid talked back to you, what would you do? I have kids that don't do that at my job, but I always wonder, is there going to be one that's going to talk back? I was given an example today. I taught a class today on drug and alcohol and vaping. And I told the kid, just like I tell you guys, when the pain of the situation becomes greater than the pleasure, that's when change happens, right? Um, and I told this kid, I said, well, let me give you an example. Let's say you smarted off to me and I popped you in the mouth. And then I told you to quit talking and you kept talking. I punched you in the mouth again. Then he kept talking and then eventually he started mumbling and I kept punching you in the mouth. And this other kid said he'd be unconscious. He wouldn't be talking, he'd be unconscious. He's like, you punch him in the mouth one time, that's it. It's a wrap. It's over. And I was like, it's just an example. I'm not really gonna ever punch him in the mouth or anything like that. But that just cracked me up. I was like, they took it so literal. He's like, he'd be unconscious. These kids, I mean, some of the stuff they come up with, it's just funny to me. I mean, one of the things that I try to do in my classes is I try to listen to these kids. I talk a little bit, but I try to listen to them more. I ask them a lot of questions and I try to listen to them because I believe that maybe that's the only place that they feel like they belong, you know? These two kids, I asked them, I said, well, how come when you're hearing everybody tell you don't vape or no vapes allowed at school, how come you keep doing it? And they both said, because our parents don't care if we do it. Everybody else seems to care, but our parents don't care. I said, so therefore you're vaping because your parents don't care whether you do it or not. Yeah. And they're young. They're young, you know? And you're right, B&B. Kids are so hard and so rewarding at the same time. It's hard to be a parent. Working was much easier, and honestly, my old probationers listened to me better at times. Yeah. See, that's awesome, Tom. That I was telling somebody the other day. I said, the chat that we have, the reason they get along is because they all believe or think along the same lines. So they're not being triggered by something somebody else says because they could either see themselves saying it or doing it. That's why we get along in this chat because there's not a lot of people that are gonna, be so outlandish or challenge you or try to have to be, the one that's running the show because this is all your show. You know what I mean? I enjoy the heck out of that. I really do. It took a long time to get here. It really did. You know. Well, we use cuffs. We handcuff them. There's handcuffs to a belt. You know, and we use the leg irons because you can't transport without leg irons. I don't know why that is, but you got to put them in the whole thing. I struggled with that B&B when I was first putting cuffs on kids. I was almost shaking because I'd never done it before. Nobody taught me how to do it. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Tom. There are some people that are too sensitive, but they don't last very long in this chat, I can tell you that. You guys aren't sensitive. You're a little tougher, you're a little harder skinned, and that's what I enjoy. Scared Straight. I remember that show, Jeremiah. Oh. Oh, I didn't get what you were saying. No, I mean I can't use cuffs and guns on my kids. Okay, gotcha. I thought you meant like on the offenders, on the kids. I was like, huh. Yeah, being a police officer these days would be tough, I think, because a kid runs from you and you don't have a dog. I don't know. You'd have to chase them. I mean, a lot of these kids run. Yeah, that's true. But I make sure that, when I cuff them, I make sure that I grab their hand and I tell them to, extend their fingers so I can see if that cuff's gonna slide off that bad boy. Or, to put their fingers in a certain position to see if the cuff's gonna slide off. The same thing with the monitors that I put on them. I make sure that they can't slip that monitor into a bag and slide it off over their ankles. So I put GPS monitors on kids too. Some folks have kids so they have someone to take care of them when they're in their later senior years. Yeah. My mom said there's full nursing home with people who have kids and they never even visit. That's sad, isn't it? Truth. You know, my aunt passed away and she didn't have any children. And my brother and my cousin, she helped raise us, through different periods of our lives. And we are basically the only kid that she was a part of. And she was an awesome lady. But when she had to be hard, she was hardcore about it. She brought the business, you know? You just talk a little assertive to a kid these days, they're gonna buckle. I got thanked once for pointing my gun and being so nice at a probationer once in court by the lawyer. I was teased by so many people after that. I went and saw my mom for 3 years every week, and I was the only one, so I got treats for all of them when I visited. That was nice of you, Tom. That was nice of you. I used to work in a nursing home. Like that was my first job out of high school. After I was a dishwasher, I decided to kind of get on a career path, and I was a certified nurse's aide. So I went to a nursing home, and man, some of those individuals are so craving love. They just hug you and don't want to let go. Like I used to transfer, women from their beds to the wheelchair or vice versa. and they just hang on you, and you could just feel that they were craving that love, that they were craving the touch. Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon, definitely. We start off as babies, and the older we get, we kind of resort back into the infancy stage the older we get. Thank you, Jeremiah. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to watch. I've never been one that could sit there and watch somebody hurting. Like, I've always befriended people that most people wouldn't have as friends, and that's from way back. I always got hell for having, I was pretty popular, but, I didn't use my popularity as something to be cherished. I befriended people that mostly people made fun of or didn't want to talk to. And that's why I guess sometimes in these chats, I see bullies and I'm like, man, that's crap. That is crap. That is nice. We used to do diabetic lower limb care. That is nice. Because they need that. We have relative spouse living with us who is now widowed and in his late 70s, has no kid to take care of him. And he had dementia. Tough road. Yeah. That's an interesting way to get to that point, Tom. For some reason, I try to. There's just something in me that won't allow me to just ignore it. I mean, I can sit there and be like last night, I was ready to get down, and the mods beat me to it, which I enjoy. I'm like, okay, finally, I don't have to do this. I got the mod that'll pull the trigger. I'm glad. Yeah, that's true. That's true, truth. And not being able to, a lot of them need that lotion. They need that circulation in their leg to keep them from deteriorating. It's sad. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. It's still hard to fathom. I know I'm older, but it's still hard to fathom being my parents' age right now. They're in their 70s, which I know isn't far off, but in my mind, I'm still thinking, well, I still got another 40 years before I get there. You know what I'm saying? B&B says, I always tell my girls when you see someone hurting and alone on the playground or in the hallways, reach out to them and make friends. Because I tell them your kindness can change their life. You're right. That's kind of you to say, Tom. She does. I can see that too. Yeah, and they have such thin skin. It's hard not to tear their skin, even not intending to. Yeah. You are fine, B&B. Keep talking away. You hardly talk. You're good. Everybody is doing great. The interaction is amazing. I'm loving it. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. It's we really don't realize our position in life until we really either look forward and see our parents if they're still alive, or if we look back and we see, our siblings or our own kids or whatever, grandkids. And then you think back and you're like, man, I'm really this much older, You might not feel that old. See, in my brain, most days feel like I'm a good 30, I guess. But when I was 30, I felt like 15, you know? And it's crazy. It's crazy. And I'm glad that you enjoy that. I'm glad you enjoy that, Sirius. Yeah, it's a full moon. You're right about that. And that's something that is really true, you know? That full moon affects a lot of people. There for a while, I was on call every full moon, every end of the month or middle of the month. I'm going to be on call for Christmas this year. So hopefully nothing bad happens. You're right, Jeremiah. I never thought it either. I never thought it either. Three below? Damn. I'm with you, Truth. I'm with you on that. And then I made it to 28, and I was like, well, maybe I can stretch this thing out to probably about 38. And then I was 45, and I was like, well, it looks like I'm getting a good run on this. Let me just keep going. -3, man. Hope you have a good heater. That's awesome, Sirius. You're doing a good deal. I mean, I commend you for that. My hat goes off to you. I'm griping about it being 38. You know how to dress with. Thin insulate. Yeah, I got you. You know, I always heard from a lot of people when I was younger, they used to say, age doesn't matter. You're only as old as you feel. And I used to think, what the hell does that mean? What does that mean? You're only as old as you feel. That's why I told you when I was in my 30s, I felt 15. I had energy out the wazoo. I was wild. I was wild. Now at 53, I'm like, I still have a little energy, but why am I not walking as fast as my brain is telling me to walk? B&B says, I'm in Coeur d'Alene and I love the cold weather. My family comes to visit and thinks I'm crazy for not wearing jackets and flip flops. I think the weather has been played with an extreme mood swings. Yeah, exactly. I love summertime. I love the springtime. I love that time of year. Seems like summer comes and goes so quick though. Just, it's here one day and it's gone the next. But I enjoy that time of the year. I enjoy that time of the year. Winter can be okay. Like right now, it's starting to. I mean, for a lot of people, let's see, it's 50 degrees here. So for a lot of people, that's not really cold, especially Tom. If it's -3 where you at, 50 degrees would be like summertime for somebody like that. You know, your husband hates that you sleep with the window wide open in the winter. Goodness. Yeah, I don't like it when it's so damn hot, it's kind of suffocating you and you can't really breathe that well. -30 in January with wind chills at whoa, whoa. That's intense, Tom. That's intense. My hat's off to you too, brother. I don't know about living up there in that temperature. Yeah, you can't pee outside. Have y'all seen some of those challenges that people were doing? They were like, they would make a bowl of ramen noodles or something and they throw it out and it freeze midair. I mean, they were doing all kinds of challenges. It was pretty cool to see some of them. You'd freeze your monkey off. Heck, it might freeze and fall off. You just don't ever know. That's a good question. I never thought they made those. Heated floors. That's pretty cool. I always thought that it'd be cool to live in like a log cabin or something, but I don't know if I could survive it, like being the mountain man or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know if I could do that. I probably could, but you know, my grandma and my aunt used to live in this house. They didn't have central heat and air, but they had like those gas heaters, those big old gas heaters. Well, that'd be the first place you'd go and stand in the morning. You'd be nice and warm in your bed, then you'd run to the living room and stand in front of that heater and warm up. You're right about that, Tom. We don't get much snow here where I'm at. We get more ice than snow. It's always nice when it does snow, though. It's so peaceful. Speed skating. Look at you. It's awesome. See, a lot of you are active still, and that's a wonderful thing, too. There's so many inactive people in the world that they don't even leave their homes. Yeah, don't let that get to you serious. I mean, people only they try to control things they don't understand. Exactly. I mean, it might have to be that type of situation. I mean, I had a girlfriend who was a survivalist, and she was a nurse, and she was stockpiling gay gauze and just survival stuff, um, needles, and all kinds of stuff that you might need to survive. And she was also stockpiling guns and tent equipment and all kinds of stuff, just in case it got bad. And unfortunately, she passed away, but she was really into that survivalistic stuff. She would tell me, she said, you can never be too comfortable with how the world is today, and that's true. That's true, you know, that is so true. I mean, I don't know if any of y'all are stockpiling anything, but it's never a bad idea to prepare for the unknown because we just never can be too comfortable with the way things are going. I know everywhere you look there's fear, but we can't live in fear, but we can be responsible and prepare, because fear is how a lot of things try to control you by making you fearful. Think about how the toilet paper situation went in 2020. You couldn't find toilet paper for days, weeks sometimes. It's not a good thing to. I never understood why, when that situation hit, the way people were hoarding toilet paper, I thought, well, does this thing give you the runs or what? I mean, why toilet paper? Why not water? Why not water? You get what I'm saying? It's like, why not, get food and non-perishable stuff and all this other stuff? Why toilet paper? I mean, toilet paper's a necessity sometimes, but you can do without toilet paper if you're smart, right? Right, exactly. Running water. I mean, obviously, a lot of people have never been in the woods very long, where sometimes you don't have toilet paper. You do the best you can with what you got. Yes, exactly. You have a bidet? That's awesome. I bet that works pretty nice. I'd be kind of confused how to use it though. You can distill water if you make a fire though. Not rocket science. A pine cone. Yeah, exactly. You read my mind, Jeremiah. You read my mind. Use a pine cone. Hell, get you some leaves. Yeah. But I mean, if you really want to survive, I'm sure your mind will help you get what you need. You know what I mean? Like starting a fire. Many people wouldn't know how to start a fire in the woods. Yeah, exactly. People would lose their minds. Truth, they would lose their minds. We have people not being able to function for a day. And that might end up happening, solar flares knock out something. Somebody was telling me about some kind of drones being flying over the northeast coast. Y'all heard about anything about that? Those the drones over a military base. So that was true. Okay. I didn't know if they were just like feeding me full of conspiracy or what, but New Jersey. So was it another country's drones or was it just regular drones? Because I've heard a little bit of it. I just didn't know what it was all about. Solar powered generator. That would be a good one. Okay. Car size. Whoa, that's huge. Yeah, have you ever broke your cell phone and you felt so disconnected from the world while you waited on your new one to show up? because while you're waiting for your new one to show up, that could be a lot of stressful times, you know? My parents are like that, Tom. Sometimes I can't get a hold of them. You call them for hours, and then they're like, "Oh, the phone was on the charger, or we had the ringer off, or something like that." It's just like, okay, I'm glad it wasn't an emergency. Landlines are pretty cool, though. I mean, the kids trip out every time they're in my office and the phone rings. They're like, "What is that? Are you serious? You've never seen a landline phone? Come on." I'm pretty sure they don't know how to use it. You want to mess with a kid? Get a rotary phone and get them, try to see how they use a rotary phone. You have an iPhone from work, so you have both. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of people with landlines still. I can't imagine, like, if we had to go back to beepers or something like that, you know? Yeah, or cut off their internet. They just freak out. Yeah, solar is definitely a lifesaver. Cause you see those signs, you see those blinking signs that run on solar. Got that little solar panel on the side of the roads. Digital detox, I like that. Yeah, I agree too. You can ask a kid, when was the last time you read a book? I'm not talking about a book online, I'm talking about a book. Like you opened it up and read it. There's a lot of kids that haven't read a book ever. They don't know how to change tires. They don't know how to check the oil most of the time. I mean, they don't know how to do anything really. But certain things they're not supposed to be doing. The last tire I changed, I busted off two lug nuts. And I don't know because they were old or because that just the power, I don't know. But that was the last time that I changed the tire. And I had to go get those lug nuts repaired. I had to get them, drilled out, and then they had to put new studs in there and then new lugs. It took forever. No, sir. Natural, natural. I know you are. I know you were kidding. Thank you so much, Sirius. That means a lot. That really means a lot because sometimes I wonder if I actually am doing any good or if I'm just getting on here and people I know y'all wouldn't be here if you weren't enjoying yourself. I know that for a fact. But you just it's good to hear it. Thank you so much. Just strong ass. Yeah, I busted off two lug nuts. I was like, what the hell? Because I busted off the one, and then I was like, okay, I can still roll with four. I'm good because it was five, and then bam, then the other one came off, and I was like, Are you kidding me? There's no way I can do three. There's no way I can roll with three. And here's another public service announcement. I don't know who needs to hear this, but check your spare tire. Check your spare tire. Yeah, they will put them on cross-threaded. You're right. Check your spare tire, and I'm saying that because usually when you need that spare tire, it's either flat or if it's in the back under the mat thing in the back of your car, if you have a car, you might have thumbtacks or whatever they have gotten down there and punctured it and it's leaked the air out. Always check your spare tire because you just never know when you might need it. And usually, when you need it, that's the time when it's usually flat or it doesn't have as much air as needed because it's sat back there for so long. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I thought that. I thought I can roll with four. I'm good. Your spare is great. I have a survival kit in the trunk and a first aid kit. Yeah, you're right, Tom. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If I need a guard, you're the man. You're the man. They buy his overage that can't be stored and his batteries inside the house. So every summer he gets paid. Yeah, I've heard that. I've even had some people that had sold solar, you know, and it does add up over time, but I think they have to have like a 30 year thing on it, 15 to 30 years or something. And that's a long time. That's like buying another house. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. I like that. I like that, Tom. I need to tell that to the kid that I counsel. You know what? Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Get out and give me 20. You know what I had them doing today? Because I was talking about the brain, right? And I've done this with adults. When they're acting like they're bored or whatever, I tell them, I said, stand up. They all stand up. They're like, I'm too cool to be standing up, right? I said, okay, sit down. They sit down. I said, stand up. They stand up. I said, jump up and down. They start jumping up and down. Two of them didn't want to do it, right? I said, you're not too cool to do this. Start jumping up and down. So eventually they started jumping up and down. And I said, okay, sit down. And they sat down. And they were trying to anticipate if I was going to say stand up. And I said, sit down. And they all stood up. And I said, see, that's what happens when you don't pay attention. When you try to do things your own way and you're impulsive, you get into trouble. And they were like, oh, you got us. Kids are fun. Kids are fun because you can mess with them and they only know what they know. They think they know more because of the technology and stuff, but they only know what they know. And some of them have not been taught hardly anything, so they're like a brand new book. You can help them out and help them with the things that they need to really be focusing on. I told them, I said, I'm not here to brainwash you. I'm not here to preach to you. I'm not here to get on to you. I'm just here to spit the fact to you. You take what you need, you leave the rest. But at a particular point, you're going to age out of here and your life is going to be your own. So if you've already made up your mind that you want to be a criminal or you want to be a drug addict or whatever, there's nothing anybody can say to you to change that if that's how you want to see your life going. You're right, Tom. Critical skills are needed. It's funny because kids, they look at me wide eyed when I'm talking like that. And I'm a pacer. If I could get the camera to move with me as I was talking, I would never be seated down during a live. I would be pacing back and forth talking because that's how I do. I'm a pacer. I'm one of those people that as I'm talking, as I'm saying something to you, I'm walking around talking. Sitting here, speaking for as long as I do, I literally have to put my hands in my pocket to keep me from fidgeting. I had to learn how to keep myself still while I spoke to focus on what I wanted to say. And if any of you are getting into public speaking or anything like that, here's a little bit of word of advice. Get you a deck of cards. Quietly break it in half, where there's half on one side, half on the other. And then as you're talking, grab one stack and flip it down on one side of the stack quietly as you're talking. And then when you run out of that stack, grab the other stack and do the same thing. It calms you down, or it does me. And it was very helpful to learn that because I used that for a long time because I'm a fidgeter. I'll grab something and I'll sit there and I'll fidget with it as I'm talking, and it drives people nuts. You ever know those people that they get a pen and they're clicking it as they're talking, or they're just clicking it or tapping the pencil on the desk? I'm not that bad, but I'm pretty bad when I'm talking in front of a large group of people. I mean, I've talked in front of hundreds of people. So, at this point, I don't have to do that. But before I used to. I used to have to do that. Have you tried to stop that or don't you want to? Well, I don't do that anymore. I don't use the cards. I don't use the pencils. I don't use any of that. Now it's just the pacing. The pacing keeps my step with the brain. So it's easier to focus than having to, rely on something external to help you. But guys, I've really enjoyed this. I got to get to bed because it's almost midnight here. But thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for you guys being here. And B&B, thank you so much for the super chat. That is so nice of you to do. I'm not going to use it on myself. I'm going to use it, like I said in my upload, to give the needy gift cards because there might be kids out there that don't have a Christmas this year because their parents don't have money to buy them anything. So if you guys find it in your heart and you got $1, $2, 50 cents, whatever, and you want to send a super chat so that I can end up getting some gift cards for some of these kids, feel free to do so. I'm not grifting you. You don't have to do it. But what I'm saying is, you know, if you're driven to do that in the near future, and probably in the next week or two, do it. I will be buying those gift cards. I will show you that I bought them online. I'll show you that I bought them by showing the gift cards on the live so that, I can be accountable to you. And we can go from there because there's a lot of kids that just aren't going to have a Christmas this year. And it's really sad. But I'm not trying to guilt you. I understand times are hard for everybody, so don't feel like you have to do anything, okay? I'm just saying if you find it in your heart and you have tons of extra and you don't know what to do with it, or go to your local places and donate on the Angel Tree or something like that. That'd probably be the best thing. Yeah, that'd be the best thing. Don't send me any money. Don't send me any super chats unless you want to send it to me. But I'm gonna be donating in this area for kids that don't have, or parents that don't have, or even homeless people that don't have, because we're all just a step away from that life. And I'd rather somebody care about survival rather than, pride. So I understand that. I understand that, B&B. Understand that. But I'm doing okay. You're okay with being a Grinch? That's cool. That's cool. Well, you guys have a wonderful night, and I'm going to ask you before I leave what I always ask you. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? If you can't dig it, get yourself a bigger shovel. Those of you that are watching this on replay, thank you for being here and watching this. Thank you for your comments. I'll see you again soon. Maestro, cue that music.